Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Kim from Professional Advantage. I'm one of the account managers here. Thank you all for signing in and to attend our webinar today on integrated web-based procurement for Microsoft Dynamics. Our presenter today is Bina. Bina's one of our senior experienced GP consultants. She's been working with the product for over 15 years, and she also has obviously vast experience in providing web-based and mobile procurement solutions. Just as a little bit of housekeeping for today, on the right-hand side of the panel there is a questions section. We will be dedicating some time at the end of the session to answer these questions. Please do fill those as we go along. Bina loves questions, so I'm sure that'll be great for her. Also, we are recording the session today, so that means that we can then put it up on our Professional Advantage YouTube channel. Now, we will send you that link to the session once we've got it up there. We'll also, if we don't have time to answer all the questions today, we'll also get those answers out to you after the webinar. So, no further ado, I'll hand over to Bina.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I've been tasked today with telling you all about workplace e-procurement, which interfaces with Great Plains. So I'm going to start off with telling you all about just what functionality is available. And then we're going to talk about the three-way matching process. Now, clearly, there are various variations to that. However, a workplace can accommodate all your variations, such as bypassing, receiving, etc. Then we're going to talk about the very intuitive user dashboard, which encourages users to help themselves and not depend on finance constantly, by actually giving them the ability to track their acquisition process and their approval status for acquisitions. And then finally, we're going to look at all the workflow approval options, such as using your email to approve, or using your mobiles to approve, or logging into the application itself to approve requisitions. So what is Workplace? So Workplace is a web-based product for procurement. So the fact that it's web-based, clearly you don't have to install on workstations. You can access it remotely from home or whatever. You don't need to log into Great Plains to create your requisitions. Not only, I know referring to requisitions, but Workplace also does, if you are one of those users that have Great Plains project or any other project system, it does project timesheets and project expenses. It also does employee travel and expenses that interfaces directly to Great Plains. As well as this, you can have invoice automation, which allows your vendor to log in directly to your portal and apply their own invoices to your open purchase orders. So Workplace is designed to integrate with multiple ERP systems. However, for the purposes of today, we are looking at Great Plains. If you are using any other system, please feel free to contact us. As well as this, Workplace supports multiple browsers. So whether it's Firefox or Chrome or IE, it actually supports all of those. And finally, but certainly not the least, is that the key strength of Workplace is the fact that it is highly configurable. So as opposed to requesting customizations, you can configure it to suit each user's requirements. So what is the procurement process? And there are various combinations of this. So you can start off with a requisition entry. It can be routed sequentially for multiple approvals. As far as the approvers will get email notifications if they opt to receive them, and they can approve either via email or logging into the application itself. You can also approve via mobile apps or just your email on your mobile app. Once it's fully approved, and the purchase order can be automated to just be emailed to the supplier. And if you choose not to, you can just, the purchase order is just created upon fully requisition being fully approved. At that point, the requisition interfaces in real time to Great Plains. If you go into Great Plains at that point, your requisition will be available there as well. So it's all real time. And I'm going to walk you through the process. As well as that, you can have decentralized receiving. So if you have multiple sites, you don't need to install Great Plains at all these sites. The requesters or your users can log into your procurement website and they can receive their own goods. And finally, you can match your invoice either in Great Plains or in Workplace to the fully received goods or partially received goods. You can do partial matching as well. Clearly, receiving and invoice matching in Workplace, the advantages of these are that you can workflow them for approval if there are variances as well. So whilst you can receive an invoice match a purchase order that was created in Workplace, you can receive or invoice match in Great Plains. The advantage of Workplace is that you can workflow them for approval in case there's a variance. So moving on. So this is a diagram of your very user-friendly dashboard. So notice as a requester, I can see on the right-hand side that I've got transactions that are outstanding and they're waiting for approval or disapproved. It also tells me whom they're waiting for. You can also see the supplier and the amount on these transactions. On the left-hand side, I have an announcement option which tells me, so I've used it to broadcast that we have a new system in place, but you can use that announcement for any broadcast. And as well as that, I have some shopping catalogs. They can be internal catalogs or you can punch out to vendors. This is an example of an email-based approval. So basically, this email has been received because I'm an alternate approver. My approvals are to just reply to this email with a yes or no, or I can click on the hyperlinks, log into Workplace, and approve it within Workplace as well. So finally, let's go into the demonstration itself. So we're going to log into Workplace just to take you through the process. So as you can see, I'm using a web browser. I'm currently using SQL authentication. However, you can use Windows authentication as well. Most clients choose that because it's more secure. If you have multiple Great Plains companies, you can drop down and select another company. All of you are familiar with Fabricam. That's the test Great Plains company that's deployed with Great Plains, and that's the one I'm logging into. So I'm going to log in. And when I log in, I've logged in as a user called Adam Barr, and he's a requester. So notice Adam's home page or his user dashboard tells him what his outstanding transactions are. He's got options to some catalogs here. If Adam was an approver, he can also go, this is where he would turn his alternate approver on or off. So an approver, if they're going to be away, they can schedule an alternate approver over a period of time, or they can turn their alternate approvers on or off here. And lastly, we are going into the requisition process. So these are the two areas I'm focusing on today. As I said, you can do expenses and project timesheets, etc. However, this is what we're looking at today. So when I select requisitions, my options are to enter transactions, view my outstanding transactions, whatever maintenance I've given myself access to, or what the system administrator has given me access to. And as well as that, I've got a whole lot of reports here. So a number of reports available, for instance, outstanding purchase orders by department, whatever you're interested in. So as far as transaction entry is concerned, I can create a transaction, I can requisition, and I can find requisitions. I can also find previously processed reviews, previously processed requisitions or review sessions. So the process is really request, approve, review. Request is the requisition, approve, multiple approvals sequentially. Review is when the PO is created. So that's what these find options are. So I'm going to go in and create a requisition. Now, one of the key strengths of Workplace is that I can also log in and create a requisition on behalf of someone else. So I can be delegated to create a requisition on behalf of my manager or whatever, and the requisition will follow the routing rules for that particular person. But in this case, I'm just going to create the requisition as Adam. I'm going to select an inventory item from Great Plains. Now, Workplace interfaces in real time to Great Plains. So if I did a lookup here, the items I see are all the items from Great Plains. You have a number of search options. So I can search where item number contains or class contains or starts with or ends with. And as well as that, whatever search my favorite searches, I can save them as favorites here so that they remember them in future. But I'm just going to take an item from here. So that defaulted my description from inventory. So that item was directly from Great Plains, defaulted my description, and notice it's defaulted my general ledger account as well. I'm going to enter a quantity. So you can have multiple quantities, you can part receive, you can do all those things. We have multiple currency. And so the only thing that's left here really is my required fields here. So I've only made it required for the user to enter a vendor and a general ledger. The GL defaulted from the item itself, so the user just needs to select a vendor. Now the vendors as well are defaulting from Great Plains. And again, I've got all the search functions and the remember option. But for now, I'm just going to take one of the suppliers here. So that's my one line completed. Now at this point, if I was only ordering this, I would just submit it for approval by hitting submit here. Notice I've got a warning here that my budget's been exceeded. So basically I'm tracking against my general ledger budget, and the $28, if I go and look at the details for this line, I can see that my actual for this general ledger account is currently 55, and I've got that much in the encumbrance, that much in my budget of 150. So my encumbrance is my commitments, and therefore I have a negative variance of $76. So in my setup, I've said, just give me a warning if I've exceeded the budget, however, allow me to continue. So your approver will be able to see this warning as well, and they can decide if they're going to approve it or not. So that's when I select an inventory item. So I'll just, at the same time, I can also go and add an attachment. So if I had a quote or something for this particular green phone that I'm ordering, I can go and browse and find it. And let's say this was one of my quotes. I would just select attach. And so it's attached it here on the right hand, as we can see. I have a few options here as well. I could say PO attach. In other words, when this purchase order, when I create the purchase order and it's emailed to the supplier, it will say send the quote out to the supplier as well. The next thing I can do is, notice I can duplicate a line. I can duplicate a whole requisition. I can also just enter free form text. So I'm going to enter freight. Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to enter freight, and I'm just going to say quantity 1 and $10. That's a lot of dollars for freight. Let's say $2. And continue. So who's my freight supplier? Now on my green phone, my supplier was Ace Travel. On my freight, I may want another supplier because I'm getting freight from elsewhere. So I could pick another supplier here. Because I didn't pick an inventory item, I now need to select a general ledger account. So the general ledger account, again, is from Great Plains. And you can do a search. So notice it saved my favorite search here where I was looking for it earlier. So I'm just going to pick one of these. But you've got a number of options here. You also can restrict users to exactly the accounts that you want them to use. So they'll only see their department's accounts. And the last option I'm going to do for now is to go and select another item from a catalog. So remember when I started, I had a few catalogs. So let's say I want some office supplies. So I'm going to select from my catalog here. I've got a number of dimensions, etc. I can have different categories here so that to make it easier for me to find things. And this is an internal catalog. I haven't punched out to a supplier, but you can punch out to suppliers as well. These catalogs are just created from a flat Excel file with the paths for where the attachments are saved. So I'm just going to go add this to my cart. And notice here it tells me I've got one item added to my cart. And so I'm going to say go and I can either continue shopping, or I would just say create my order. Right, so notice how it's added my mouse pad here. So I've got $8.45 for my mouse pad, and I'm going to select, because in my catalog I didn't populate all of I could have populated the GL and the vendor and everything else, but I haven't. So I'll have to select it manually. But if I was always using the same supplier for mouse pads such as Officeworks, I could have defaulted that from the catalog as well. So I'm going to save this now. So my rules for Adam are that, and the warnings here are really just that all these items have exceeded budget. Okay, and that's fine. I obviously don't have budget in Great Plains. So if you're not using the encumbrance management budgets in Great Plains, then you won't have this. It's optional. My rules for Adam are that if they are greater, if anything is greater than $1,000, it's going for approval. So I'm just going to make my mouse pad worth a little more so I can route it for approval, because everything else is not going to go for approval. Sorry. What's more is I've got line-based approval. Gee, sorry, just having trouble with my keypad. Right. So I've got line-based approval. So I've said if this line is greater than 1,000 and this supplier is this and this GL is something else, it's going for approval. So when I submit this, I'll get a warning. This has exceeded budget. Do I still want to submit? I'll go yes. Notice I have an attachment on only one line, not the others. I could have had an attachment on all my lines. So these two items have been fully approved. They did not need approval, and this is all configurable. If you don't want auto approval, I have clients who all want anything even greater than $0 to go for approval. So, however, my mouse pad has gone for approval. So let's have a look at that. So my mouse pad is gone to Brenda for approval. So I'm going to log out. If I went back to my home page before I log out, requisition number 309, notice how it's gone to Brenda for approval. So until Brenda approves it, this is how the user can tell whether their transaction is complete or not. So they could chase Brenda up for approval. As well as that, at this point, Brenda would have received an email, and she can approve from her email, etc. So logging in as Brenda, and it's in her to-do. So Brenda has a to-do here which has one item pending approval. So I'm going to select that. Now Brenda can load approval sessions by various criteria, but I know there's only one session, one item, so I'm just going to load it. But she may want to load it by different criteria. I may want to load, I don't have time today to approve, but I'm just going to approve one requester, that sort of thing. So notice Brenda sees everything as the user did, and most importantly, she sees the attachments here, so she knows what she's approving. These two lines didn't require her approval. However, I've made them visible to her so that she can see the full requisition, and that's optional. Brenda's options are to either disapprove. So if she did disapprove, she'd have to give a reason. She could leave it waiting action later, or she could disapprove it. And in this case, I've got line level approval or header level approval. So if all three lines required approval, she could have said, I'm only approving one of them, or any of those combinations. So I've selected approve, and I'm going to just process this. So this now, Adam can get an email if he's requested one, telling him that his transaction has been fully approved. And he can go and create the purchase order. But let's have a look at this line that Brenda just approved. So the warning, of course, is the budget warning. Let's have a look at the details here. So notice my audit trial. So Adam submitted, Brenda approved, and that's all my encumbrance information and all my time and date stamp information. So at this point, you have a couple of options really. You know, depending on your processes, you may want Adam to convert this to a purchase order. You may have a centralized purchase order, a purchasing department who converts purchase orders so that they can consolidate common vendors, that sort of thing. It's up to you. In my situation, I've just got Adam converting. So Adam's got 3 lines pending review. So that makes sense. He's got line 1, 2, 3, and they've all been fully approved, and he would have received an email notification. Now he could have launched this next window, not this one, but the one after, directly from his email. But obviously I don't have my email running right now, so I'll load it manually. But notice all the options he has. He can load a requisition by requisition number, etc., in order to convert to a purchase order. So this particular requisition, because I have 3 lines, and there were 3 different suppliers, they are going to obviously create 3 different purchase orders, aren't they? And if you don't want your users to do that, then that's an internal process. You don't need to do that. So your options here are, if you do have stock in Great Plains, then you may want to release it from stock. So I can select this 100 because I know it's a stock item, the green phone, and I can just go and have a look at my inventory info. And notice I have 30 items on hand in my warehouse, so I could say, I actually don't want to purchase this from a supplier, I'm just going to release it from stock. And then with the others, I can say I'm going to cancel them, I'm not allowing this, I'm going to hold this till later, release from stock, or just order. So I'll keep it simple and order all of them. So notice ordered all and process. So as soon as I do this, it's going to create a purchase order in Great Plains. Now, if you've set your supplier up to automatically receive the purchase order by email, they would have received that by now as well. So let's have a look. 2226. Let's pick that one. So I've got 3 POs. So I'm going to go into Great Plains. And I'm just going to go to my last PO. So it was 226. And there's my 100 XLG. And basically, if I went to my, so if I looked at the details, it tells me it's been created by Adam. If I want to see more details, it tells me it's requisition 309, line 1, etc. And I could go in and view the attachments that came through from Workplace. I can drill down and open them, and I can go and view all the related transactions here. So requisition 309 line 1 became PO number 226. Okay, so that's my request, approve, review process where the purchase order is being created in Great Plains already. So for those of you who do want to receive goods in Workplace, so I'll just go back here. So at this point, I want to receive invoice match. I can actually receive the goods and I can also invoice match them. Now the benefits of receiving and invoice matching in Workplace, as I mentioned in the beginning, was that you could actually workflow them if there's a variance of any sort. So I'll go and do a receiving here for I'm going to do it by requisition. Now when you receive goods, generally you have the PO number in front of you, and you would receive by PO, you would receive by vendor. You've got all those options. Okay, so but I'm just going to receive by requisition number. Okay, so requisition 309, I have 3 lines here, and there's no surprise there. So I'm going to receive this one and this one. So notice this one here had 120 quantity ordered, and I've got 120 shipped, but I could say I've actually only received 10. Now, if you allow the user to change the cost, they can. Most clients don't. Okay? So at this point, I'm only receiving these 2 lines. I could receive all 3, but I'm just going to process this. So I'm receiving 227 and 228. So notice up here it tells me that Workplace receiving transaction has created a batch in Great Plains, and my batch number is number 42, and that's my receipt number. So all that's been done for me. So I'm good. So you know, you can do a series post or however you choose to post in Great Plains, but that batch here, batch number 42, is the one I'm referring to, needs to be posted here. If I have a look at it, it's got all the details that the receipt had. So it's a shipment, so that any of you doing this manually now, you'll notice I've got my PO, I'll have my distributions, and if I go and have a look at my attachments, I've got the attachments here as well, if I had any on shipment, and there's all my, this is the line that didn't have an attachment, or I would have seen it here. And as well as that, I can see all the relationships. So the requisition number 309, there were 3 lines that became 3 POs. So you've got the full history. And notice all the hyperlinks. So you can actually zoom in on these hyperlinks to take you through to Workplace as well. So I'm going to close this and do the simple thing and post this batch. So in my setup, I've said that you can only match an invoice if the transaction's posted. Okay? I'm just going to check it again. So it is PO228 because I'm going to go and invoice it next. So post. Your usual reports, etc. And let's go into Workplace again. So at this stage, if I look at requisition number, if I went find requisition 309, which is this one, and line 228, which is that last one, and go to details, I can see that I ordered 120 and I've shipped 120, so I'm waiting for an invoice and a match. And notice I can also go and regenerate my purchase order. I've got all my history here as to who did what, and I've got all my purchase encumbrance information here. Now, as soon as I record the invoice and post it, and you'll notice I'll be able to see that information there as well. So if I just picked a completed transaction, such as this. So this is a completed transaction. It's got a green flag here. And if I went into my details, notice right down to the payment, the invoice. So I've had multiple payments applied to this, multiple invoices, and that's all up here. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and invoice, which is the last step of your three-way match. And this, again, as I said, is optional. You could do it in Great Plains as well. So in Workplace, you can bypass shipment and just do a shipment invoice. Or in this case, I'm going straight to an invoice. So it just depends on your process. And I'm going to load by PO. But if I went load, I would see all the transactions that were there previously that are available for invoicing. And if I went right down to the bottom, I can see 228 here. So I could even have said, to simplify it, I could have said where PO number is 228. So you can basically do it in various different ways. My search is 25 lines, so I've just extended it. And still I need more lines, and that's getting too hard. So I'm just going to go down here and find it. So that's the one I'm invoicing. Okay? You can enter a variance here. Invoices are not always unfortunately, as per your acquisition or your shipment. So you can enter a variance, and that can be routed for approval again. This window is totally customizable. I can hide any of the fields I don't want to see. And all I need to do really is enter an invoice number here. Oh. And so this also validates. So if this number exists in Great Plains, I will get an error. And all I'm going to do is process this. So that should create a batch here. Okay, so this batch number 43 should now be in Great Plains. So let's go ahead and have a look at it. Let's just go and see that it hasn't routed for approval, because nope, it is gone through to Great Plains. So batch number 43. This is my previous report still generating. So purchasing batches, those of you who use purchase order processing, that's an invoice entry created by Adam Barr. And there's my invoice, all completed. So my mouse, my GL distributions, so clearly debit accrual, credit accounts payable, and all that has flowed through from Workplace. Okay, including the GST, etc. And all you need to do is void this transaction. Not void it, post the transaction. So that's your complete workflow from start to end. So I'm happy to actually go to question time.
Thank you, Bina. That was a great presentation. I've even learnt some new stuff myself. You've done so well that there are no questions at the moment. So I think you've really explained things really well. But we'll give people just a couple of minutes if they want to put some questions in the question panel on the right-hand side, and we'll certainly wait. And see if there's any questions that get raised. So we'll just give it a minute there. Okay, is there a minimum version compatible? So what versions of Workplace work with what versions of GP?
Oh, yes, and that's definitely one of the strengths of Workplace. We are currently implementing it for a client, believe it or not. Just close your ears, but they're on GP6.
Oh my.
So it is back compatible. So you can have, GP 2013 with Workplace 16. And that doesn't matter. So Workplace runs with GP. Currently the version of Workplace available is 16, the latest version, and GP is 16, but that doesn't mean you cannot install 16 for a version 13, for example.
Great, that's fantastic. I think the next question might be more GP related, because it's how is the inventory set up and maintained? Is that set up in GP or is it set up via Workplace?
So generally inventory should be maintained in Great Plains, because you want, finance should have control over it. But if you did need to manage inventory in Workplace, then yes, there is an option. So there's a new vendor workflow in Workplace. So if you needed a new supplier, you're creating a requisition, supplier doesn't exist, there's a new vendor request form, which will automatically, once approved, create the vendor in Great Plains, and then there's an inventory if you want. But we find that clients want to control that in Great Plains. And so we set up routing rules so that if there's an item that they need created, we would set up a routing rule so that they would delegate to someone instead of workflowing it, for approval. They would delegate, create the requisition, delegate it to someone in finance, have finance create it in Great Plains for them, and then continue on their process.
Fantastic. So it really is up to the client which way they want to control it there. Okay, the next one we have is not so much something that you can answer, Bina, there. It's, are we planning on any training in the administration functions? Certainly we can get the account manager involved there to answer that question. We're not planning any public training, but certainly we can work with you to get some training organised for you on that. Okay,
so Workplace administration is very custom to every client, because what we looked at today is only requisition, receiving, invoice matching. But you're going to have timesheets and expenses and vendor contracts and all sorts of things. So obviously just having a generic session at PA is not the solution. We do a half-a-day training on site with the customer.
Okay, that way we can customise it to their requirements. Yes. Fantastic. Right. Excellent. So I'll just see if there's any more questions at the moment. We seem to have got to the end of our list, which is great. So I'll just wait another 10 seconds or so, just in case someone's quickly typing away there to give us another question. Okay, look, I'd say that's probably the end of our questions, Bina. But look, if we do, please, everyone, if you do have another question, please do still continue to type. We will certainly get those questions answered after our session today. So who to contact after this session if you have more questions, or if you want to get some more information about Workplace, you've gone, oh my God, that's something that will be wonderful for our company. Contact your account manager for further assistance. If you are not sure who your account manager is, or that sort of stuff, give Alina an email and she will point you in the right direction of who can help you with assistance there. And just to round out our webinar today, our next upcoming event that PA is hosting is our Drill Down Actions in Board. Now, Board is a reporting, budgeting, planning and forecasting tool that we work with. Obviously, this is open to all of our clients, so if you're interested in that area of your business, you can find information on our website, which is nice and easy, pa.com.au. Look under events and you'll see our Drill Down Actions in Board webinar there. It's on the 13th of September and it's the same start time as today, which is 12:30. So to round off our webinar today, thank you very much for attending today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend that with us. And thank you, Bina. It was a great presentation. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
everyone. And not a problem. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.